Welcome to another Altness discussion. I am Brian McBalls, joined with Jordan Wade,
Hey guys, how's it going?
and we're here to talk about Season 4, Episode 7, Mockingbird of Game of Thrones, of course. And as always, if you are not caught up on the show, Season 4, Episode 7, I suggest you turn this video off. We also compare these events that happen in the TV show to their similar events in the books. So if you don't want to be spoiled on the books, you might want to back out as well. And let's go ahead and get this started. We're going to start with Daenerys' story. You want to go ahead and establish that one for us,
Yes,
Jordan?
sure. Yeah, so we opened this episode, and Danny's part of the episode. We open with her in Meereen. She's still a Marine, and she is visited, unbeknownst. Dario breaks into her chamber, lets himself into her chamber, and is waiting there with a nice bouquet of flowers that he said he swam a mile to an island to get. So obviously, we know Dario's been trying to romance her over the course of this season, and it kind of really comes to a head this time. No, well, that was no pun intended, but that kind of dropped in there. He basically says he's great at two things. That's killing and that's women. And so Daenerys calls him on it. And he drops trowel, and we assume they get down and dirty overnight. And lo and behold, the next morning, as Dario's walking out, feeling pretty good about himself, we see Ser Jorah walk past him, and you can just see the little that little distraughtness in Jorah's face because he was beaten to the punch. And this is what that was. So we finally see, like, Dany's been pretty faithful to her to her deceased husband, Khal Drogo. We haven't seen her have any romantic relationships since then. And really, I mean, this was, I don't know if it was so much romantic as it was just sort of her, using her power to, to her own ability, in her own favor. But the most interesting part about this scene was how, obviously, Jorah, I'm assuming, and we've talked about this before, I'm assuming Jorah has a romantic interest in Dany. I mean, that's somewhat documented, and we see that sort of heartbreak in him, constantly being in the friend zone. And sure enough, she continues to leave him in the friend zone and baits him back into it when he talks her out of sending troops to go kill. What were the troops she was wanting to send people to? The Second Sons to which city again?
I'm trying to remember which city that was. I don't remember.
It's where she got the Unsullied, right? That was where.
Yeah. She passed two cities, Yunkai and what was the other one? I don't remember the first one.
Was it Karth?
No, not Karth.
Okay, so there was another city in between there. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a city there's a city she got the Unsullied, and then there was Yunkai where she got the Second Sons, and that's where Dario joined her.
Okay, so she's wanting to send people to Yunkai then. I'm sorry, I keep getting my eastern cities mixed up here.
It's very common amongst people to get those kind of mixed up a little bit. But yeah, she's basically, those cities have been retaken by the Masters, and she wants to keep them liberated. She doesn't want all of her work to go to waste, pretty much.
Yeah, but like I said, so here we see Dany wanting to be ruthless. She's wanting to kill. She wants to send the Second Sons back to Yunkai to kill off all the Masters, basically. Like, say, you either join me or die. That was basically. Or I didn't even think she was going to give that option initially, right? She was just wanting to kill the Masters off and let the slaves be free. So Jorah comes in and he says an important line. He says that there are good and bad to both sides of war. It's not just good versus bad. There's a mix on both sides. And so she takes his words of wisdom, like usual, into council, and she agrees, and she comes to an agreement. She doesn't exactly she doesn't completely agree with him, but she does yield some of what he says and decides that she will give the Masters an ultimatum: either agree with what she's doing or be killed. But she drops that little thing like, "Go tell Dario that I said this," but no, wait. Go tell Dario that I told you, you told me what to do, or something like that, or
you convinced me, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and it's like, Jorah gets pushed right back into friend zone. She baited him right back in. He feels important to her again.
She's keeping him trapped in that zone.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a little bit. I think that's probably one of the more interesting scenes we've seen from them in a little while.
Sure.
But yeah, you're right. That is her her first sexual prowl since Drogo, and that's been a while now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
that was season 1. So
yep.
here we are. It's been long for the audience. So yeah, I was. I'm not gonna say I was surprised because I feel like it was going in that direction just because Dario is so suave. I figured at some point he was gonna be able to get Dany into bed, but obviously she had the upper hand, and Dany continues to show that she very much has the power in any sort of relationship, and she's not going to bend to the will of another man. She will take what she wants from them, and she will, continue to go on the path that she wants to. She's going to continue to pursue her interests and pursue her goals. So nothing's going to derail her from that.
Oh yeah. And so let's move on to Arya and the Hound. This was some interesting scenes here. They go to now. I might have missed this, but is this the same guy that they took his money? I don't think it is, right? They come across that villager who's wounded. I don't think that was the guy. I don't think that was the guy with his daughter, right?
No, because it seems like they would have made reference to the daughter. I think it's just another elderly guy. I actually didn't draw that connection, to be honest. I mean, it could have been, but I don't think so. It seems like they would have made reference to the little girl being gone or something like that. Because that would have been pretty devastating to come back and see just him and his daughter gone. Like they would have, made some sort of reference.
Yeah, and plus it wouldn't make sense geographically for them to go back there. Like they're heading to the east. So yeah, all right. So they find this guy. He's wounded, and the Hound's trying to show her, he's going to give the guy mercy pretty much. And he's like, this is where the heart is. And then she takes that lesson immediately and just stabs Rorge in the chest. But yeah, it was an interesting scene. It's not really from the books at all. Okay. In fact, I don't know if I think Rourke is still alive in the books. But Biter is still, he lives past this point too. So I think they were maybe they're going to replace them with somebody else in the future.
Oh, so those bandits were. I mean, I remember. It wasn't until Arya reminded me of who that one guy was. She didn't. It wasn't until I was like, oh yeah, that's right. He was one of the guys who had threatened to have his way with her. And I'm like, oh yeah, I vaguely remember this guy. But so those are actually somewhat bigger characters in the book, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they're more memorable. I guess they get more time in the books. So yeah, they're some pretty awful dudes, but yeah, they've been dispensed in this episode. I mean, it's not a huge detriment to the story. There's a lot of awful people that can replace them later down the line, but it was just, I think that was the thing, is they wanted to bring back characters from somewhat recent memory, and I guess tie up their story. So we got the end of Biter and Rourke. And yeah, you're right. We have a scene. Obviously, Clegane gets bit by Biter, and he's trying to take care of his own wound. He refuses to have it cauterized or use any flame. So yeah, there's a moment of kind of bonding or almost a opening up of sorts between the two characters.
Yeah, obviously we have seen where multiple times that the Hound fears fire more than anything else, and we see even in this moment, and something that's not going to necessarily, it's going to hurt, but it's not going to necessarily, she's not going to set fire to him. He will not deal with fire whatsoever, and so he opens up as to why, the story about how he got the scarring on his face, and it's. Not gonna say it's one of the more tender moments we've seen, especially from the Hound, but definitely in between their relationship, and you start seeing, we're gradually seeing this wall of hatred that Arya has for the Hound gradually be broken down. I mean, she still says in words that she hates the Hound, but we start seeing that she does see him as another human being now. He obviously can't be all bad because he hasn't killed her, and in fact, and during this conversation, we hear him talk about how he realizes that there's a bounty out on his head. And you would think that if he really, I mean, obviously he's a tough guy, but you would feel like if he really felt that she was that much of a burden, he would either kill her or send her away. But he is going to continue to protect her and be a protector of sorts. And so I think Arya is starting to see that as well.
An interesting thing about that too is kind of like a little, I guess, a metaphor or something, is that this is the one scene in the entire show that we've seen Sandor Clegane without his armor on, and it's like he let his guard down and let her in, kind of. I thought that was interesting.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you usually got that big brutish armor on, in that moment when he's having to tend to his wound, it's gone because he has to be able to have access to it. So yeah, that is
Yeah, the only scene we've seen him without his armor. I'm pretty sure that's the only scene he's had no armor on.
Yeah, I can't think of any other time, to be honest. I mean, not in the past couple seasons at least.
Yeah, but that was a good scene. I liked it overall. And I like that they continue to. They show us reasons why Arya hates him, and they show us reasons why they get along, or why they kind of bond in a way.
Hmm.
I like that they don't just show one side, because their relationship is pretty complicated, and I like that they're keeping it that way as much as possible.
Right. I mean, they're not chums, and they're not best friends. There's definitely a level of distrust between the two of them, but gradually that wall is being broken down, like you said, with the armor being taken off, and Arya not trying to kill him in his sleep either. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll move on. We are finally reintroduced to the Mountain, the third actor of playing the role.
Yeah, I was gonna say he looks a little bit different this time. Each time we see him, he seems to look just a tad bit different.
Yeah, he's different every time. I got to say again, I've talked about this. I think we've talked about this in the past, but I am so happy that they got this guy to come on for the role. I'm not normally happy about recasts because, my opinion, I thought Conan Stevens, the first actor to play the role, was the best suited. He was the Mountain. Like, to me, he was perfect for the role. He was the biggest guy. He was the broadest. He was the Mountain. Like, they couldn't have found a better guy for that role. And the story is Conan Stevens, he left. He did not come back for season 2 because he got a role in The Hobbit. He plays one of the orcs, and he's actually in full costume, and he was on the set and he did all of his part. And in the end, they chose to replace him with CGI. So he leaves for an iconic, he leaves an iconic role behind, only to be replaced by a CGI orc in The Hobbit. So to me, that is the biggest disappointing thing for me, because I think Conan Stevens being present all throughout all 4 seasons, the Mountain would have been built up more. We would have hated this guy more. Instead, we got some awesome scenes with him in season 1. Season 2, he was replaced with, I forgot the actor's name, but he was the least Mountain-like person. He was tall, but he was too thin, and he didn't have a unique look about him. I don't even know if you remember the Mountain from season 2.
I don't, to be honest. I can't even. I'm trying to rack my brain to think of where I would have. What scenes was he in? Was he at the Battle of Blackwater or?
No, he's in Harrenhal when Tywin is there, and he's having those council meetings.
Okay.
He's having meetings with his war advisors, and the Mountain's just kind of standing there in the back. He's got a pretty thick beard at that point, and he has full armor. You almost can't even tell, like, unless you're listening to the dialogue, you won't know that's the Mountain. Like,
okay.
That's how much of a disappointing cast decision that was. I mean, and it's not really their fault. Conan Stevens left on his own accord, but I'm happy, like I said, that they got another guy. This guy at least looks more like the Mountain.
Yeah, he was physically imposing. The dude is huge. And we haven't had a lot of screen time with the Mountain up to this point, but I think they did a lot with the limited amount of screen time they gave him. I mean, we've obviously heard stories about him. I mean, he's been devastating to whatever side he's battling against, and here we have see him just going through like just they're just feeding him just pathetic underlings. He just really slices him in half.
That scene, it almost is comedic to me, because it's like, what is he doing? Like, is this like is this like murder practice or something? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's like he has a bloodlust that he has to like quench, It's like he has to kill said number of people every day in order to just live, Just like, because none of those guys were ever going to put up a fight. Like, it wasn't a challenge at all. He's literally they run in, he just slices. It's like, and then that's it.
Yeah, and I like Cersei. She comes up to him, she's like, "Oh, so you're I see you're still up to form." Like he's getting his like workout, like he's at the batting cage or something, like. No, it's ridiculous. The only thing I can think of that would justify that is maybe they were prisoners, because in the books they talk about how the dungeons, or so after Blackwater and like the time leading up to Blackwater, there were a lot of riots, and there was a lot of crime in the streets, and not enough like men or gold cloaks to keep the crime down. And obviously, with the war going on in the Riverlands, all of those people are fleeing to the Red Keep. So there's an influx of civilians coming into the Red Keep, into King's Landing, And yeah, so I'm guessing is that the dungeon's filled up, and they decided they need to start executing some of the prisoners. That's the only thing I can think of why this guy is just murdering guys one by one in a line.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, when I thought of, I guess I sort of assumed it was something like that. I couldn't imagine it's like there's like crowd a bunch of dudes up. Hey, come on down the block. We got to show you something. Run at him, run, run, run. It's like I assumed it was something like prisoners or something of that sort. I just can't imagine it's just like it would be that awful where there's like feed the mountain. Just like it's just like it had to be prisoners, and I guess I assumed that, and so I just knew they were fodder.
I'll still consider it murder practice. That's all I'm gonna. That's what I'm gonna go with.
I like that. I like murder practice. Let's roll with that. Murder practice is the best way to go.
Yeah. So yeah, now he's ready. He's the chosen champion for Cersei to represent the tribal combat. We get one episode before the combat. I was hoping to see more of him this season, but that's fine. There's not much else about that scene.
No, I mean Cersei chose her champion. I think it was, I think it was a good assumption to think that it was going to be someone like that. Obviously, you go with Meereen Trent, but he's not well known for his fighting ability. So
Meereen
I think
fucking Trent.
exactly. I don't if he doesn't impress the Hound, then I don't think he's going to do too well. And obviously Cersei's going to pick whoever it is that gives her the best chance of killing her little brother. So obviously the Mountain is as great a choice as you can choose.
Oh yeah. Let's move on to Jon Snow and the Night's Watch. Pretty much, they come back from their mission. Ghost is back, and Alistair Thorne's not happy about that. He tells them to chain him up. That's a difference from the book. Ghost has not yet reunited with Jon at this point, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. I don't know if they're just going to keep him chained up for the rest of the season or what. We'll see. But yeah, they're going to put. They're putting Ghost in chains, and Jon is not. He's not greeted with a mission accomplished, or there's no reward for this mission he just accomplished. It's basically he comes back and they're still treating him like he's some wildling, turncloak or whatever. And Jon's trying to recommend that they block the tunnel because the giants are just going to break through the gates, and Alistair Thorne and the council don't want to listen.
And Jon almost. There is a brief moment when you think that the engineer might act, the builder, as he's called in Night's Watch, might actually agree with Jon. I mean, there's a moment of hesitation, but at the end of the day, it'd probably be a political suicide for him to go on the side of Jon Snow in that room. So obviously that did not come to pass.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, just more of Jon Snow taking. You can't catch a break up there. And then him and Tarly get assigned watch duty on the wall until the moon's turn. So it's safe to assume they'll be on watch duty whenever the wildlings do come around, possibly.
I'm imagining a great CG moment when we see a large army storming the wall, and they're going to be the ones to bear witness to it first. So I was already seeing that in my head. I was already seeing that's how we're going to be introduced to the wildlings attacking the wall.
Indeed, and I don't think there was too much else to grab from that segment.
No.
It seemed like there's a lot of support for Jon, other than Alistair Thorne and Jano Slint. Those guys just seem to hate Jon, but everybody else seems to take his side almost.
Yeah, because I mean, he obviously proved himself in this battle at in the weekend at Craster's. So,
yeah, the weekend at Craster's. Yeah,
he proved himself well there.
All right, so that's all we'll talk about on that one. Let's move on to Brienne, Pod, and their run-in with Hot Pie.
Yeah, I was actually shocked to see Hot Pie again. I had actually told a friend that when I was going through it again, I said I don't think we're going to see Hot Pie again. But sure enough, Hot Pie is here, and he brought them his proud creation of a kidney pie, and he kind of overstays his welcome in conversation.
Yeah, but no, it's pretty awesome that the connection is made here, because he's obviously seen Arya and he shares that information with them. So they got their first clue essentially of where they should start looking. That's a good thing for them. And it's funny. Hot Pie's baking skills have gone up a few levels. His direwolf animal cracker is looking a bit better.
That was a nice animal cracker. That was darn impressive. I just wonder how fresh it's going to be when they have to deliver it to Arya. I think it's going to be like petrified wood at that point. But
They'll probably have to eat it along the way.
yeah, it's a thought that counts. It's nice. It's a nice little gift. They'll explain it to her how it looked and how wonderful and how detailed Hot Pie's cooking has become.
Yeah, no, your wolf cookie was very good. We ate it gladly, but no, that was good though. We're seeing Pod and Brienne getting along pretty well, and Pod is becoming more confident. You can tell he's using the knowledge he gained from his service with Tyrion to kind of guide Brienne along. I'm surprised they made Brienne not know that Sansa's aunt was Lysa Arryn. It seems like it makes her seem not very intelligent, but you know, it's fine. Like it gives Pod some points at least.
Yeah, I was actually a little. I mean, yeah, I was a little shocked by that as well. I mean, I understood. He was explaining the allegiances of. What he was explaining something to her about the different houses and stuff like that, right? I forget what. I mean, that was that in that same conversation when he's explaining the errands and stuff like that in the Vale. I can't remember, but
He was basically just saying that Lysa's the last living like family member to Sansa with money.
okay.
And I think in one of the last episodes, Brienne had said that they're going to go try for the Wall because Jon Snow's at the Wall.
Yes.
But yeah, this kind of changes their direction. I think they're going to head towards the Vale now.
Yeah.
And yep, that's all that was to that. Some funny moments, some little tender moments. You get to see Hot Pie again. That was good. And now we're getting to the big stuff. Oh, go ahead.
Well, first of all, there is one other thing. We did stop in with Melisandre at Dragonstone and her moment with Stannis' wife. We get this. Melisandre's a good-looking woman. I mean, I mean that was they had hit that skin quota for the week, and they chose a worthy person for that skin quota. But it's amazing. Like there's been times that Melisandre's looked a little bit older, but in this scene she looked really young, and I don't know if it's just because she was next to an older actress or not, but she looked particularly stunning in this scene,
She looks good.
The nudity helped. The nudity helped. I'm not gonna lie, but I mean I'm not gonna complain. But yeah, she kind of. I was a little shocked by her revelations about her tactics and how she gets people to sort of buy into the Lord of Light. She revealed that there are some magic tricks she uses that are not necessarily truthful. She reveals that there are some lies that need to be told in order to bring people to the truth. So now you start to bring into question some of the things she has done. Now the demon child, that I don't know how magic explains that. That was, I mean, I don't know how a magic trick, some false magic trick would explain it. That was somebody died. Renly died at the hands of a demon child, but you start to call into question some things. Also, the Brotherhood revived someone who had died, so obviously there's some sort of real magic at play. But you start to question Melisandre and her abilities at this point.
I'm glad you brought this up because I completely forgot about this scene, and it is very important actually, because actually I was surprised they revealed this information so early that she uses tricks. She employs illusions and such, to fool people into believing her, and that is actually information that is not revealed until much later in the books. And yeah, that's some very interesting info. I'm glad you brought that up. I could go into some detail about this because there are some comments that have been made in the show where I don't think they've expanded on it enough, maybe, or it's been so long that people forget. But there is a cost to using real magic almost. In the books, it's remarked that whenever the demon baby is created, it's said that Stannis pretty much did have to give her to impregnate her pretty much, and it would cost. In the books, he actually did it twice. He used the demon. Wow. He used the demon child to slay Renly and to slay the guy who was holding Storm's End. There was a guy who was holding Storm's End called Courtney Penrose, and he was refusing to yield the castle because he didn't want. He refused to believe Renly was dead. Pretty much, he was loyal to Renly, and so they used the demon child twice. And it's remarked by Davos that in that short period that they were sieging Storm's End, between those two things, that Stannis looked like he had aged 10 years.
Oh wow.
So it comes at great cost when they use this kind of power, I think. And it's just to expand on it a little bit. It said she uses tricks. So at this point, I believe we should take to mind that she uses tricks and there is actual magic, but to keep people fearful and to keep people believing that it's kind of like this. If you even if you can't use this magic at all times, you know, she doesn't want it widely known that she can't do this all the time. If
Right. She
people,
wants to keep people on their toes.
yeah, if people think that she can use magic whenever she wants and there's no cost, they will be more fearful and they will respect her power more. So that's something that's a new layer of Melisandre that's really interesting. They revealed that.
Well, it's interesting you bring up that the magic comes at a cost because in the scene with the Brotherhood, and I forget the characters, we only with them briefly, but the man who's slayed and then he's brought back to life, that Brotherhood priest had said that every time it gets a little bit harder to bring him back. Like it was understood that it just didn't come easy every time. It wasn't like he could snap his fingers up. Lord of Light has brought you back to life. He said it's harder every time. So obviously we understood there was a certain cost to it, or or a weakening effect over time.
Yeah, and that was Beric Dondarrion, the one who's brought back. And it's also remarked that every time he comes back, he loses part of himself. And man, there's a beautiful line of dialogue that they did not include from the books, and it's basically that he says that I used to be engaged to a woman. I could not remember the color of her hair. I could not remember where I lived. I cannot remember my favorite foods or who my mother was. He's going down the list of these things that he's forgotten, and it's like every time they bring him back, he loses part of himself.
Yeah, and what is with a person without memories? That's a sad existence to have. To not remember your own mother or anything like that.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite characters, Beric Dondarrion. I wish we'd get more time with him. He's very interesting. We could talk about him some other time.
Yeah.
I don't want to derail the whole video, but yeah, that was interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. And we also are given knowledge in that scene that they are departing for somewhere, and that she wants Shireen to come with them, the daughter.
Yeah, and it sounds like Shireen would be used as a sacrifice, or at least that's what we seem to be led to believe at the end of that scene.
Do you have any guesses as to where they're heading? If you don't, that's fine. I'm just wondering if you caught any hints or anything, because I don't. To me, I don't see in the show where they've revealed that information. But
I couldn't even venture to guess where they're going right now. Now, I'm wondering if Shireen's scars come into play at some point, her birth effect, because talking to some people, they believe that that's going to be a big reveal at some point. People that haven't read the books, they believe that her birth effect is going to be some sort of big reveal down the line, just because it looks so scaly. But yeah, I don't know if that's going to play into it or anything like that.
Okay. All right. Well, there's things are developing. That's good. This is probably the most traction we've seen with Stannis' plotline in a while. So yeah. I'm happy to see that things are moving along. Unless you have anything else to add to that, we can move on to Baelish and Sansa.
Yeah, we got the potatoes before the meat. So this is the big stuff, the big heavy hitters from the week.
Yes. So yeah, we get to see more of the Vale, the beautiful snow scene. I'm glad that scene made it in where she's building the snow castle.
Yes, and this was another one of those tragic Disney princess scenes that Sansa seems to be known to have in the books and what we've seen in the show. It's one of those beautiful moments you would see in a Disney film where the princess gets to go out and have a joyful moment out in the snow and stuff like that. But unfortunately, that's not really how it plays out.
Yeah, they've changed this scene a bit. Little Robin, the sweet Robin, he's aged up a bit, so they've changed the way that the breaking of the castle goes down.
Okay.
And I think it's kind of awkward that she loses her temper so quickly and slaps him.
Yeah, I thought that went against her character development so far, because Sansa's grown up a whole lot. I feel like if it was Sansa season 1, we would have saw something like this, but it just seems so weird that she would just like completely blow up on him like that. Because at the end of the day, it was just, I mean, I could understand her being annoyed, but But to just like haul off and slap him after a brief argument over it was it was a little over the top, I think, for Sansa.
Yeah, the way it went down in the books is a little different. Like I said, Sweet Robin is much younger in the books, and he's still playing with a doll. He has like some kind of night doll or something, and he basically comes up and he's like, "Hey, I want to play," and then he just starts destroying the castle with his knight. Like he's like, I'm going to destroy this place, yada yada. And instead of slapping him, she just kind of like throws his doll, she slaps his doll away or something, and he loses his temper and starts having a seizure because he has health problems. So he's taken away like that, and I think it's more in character almost. Because it's not Sansa just losing her temper that quickly and smacking a sickly child, But yeah, it is what it is. The scene plays out its purpose, I guess. And Baelish comes in and he moves in. He makes his move.
Yeah, he does. Over the past few weeks, we've been wondering how he sort of sees Sansa. Obviously, he sees a lot of Cat in her, but we know that Cat is his one true love. We know that. But then he says, you're far more beautiful than Cat was, and then he just plants one on her, and it's supposed to be creepy. I understand that, but it really felt really creepy when Peter Baelish is kissing Sansa. This is the first time we've seen a young character kiss a much older character like that. I mean, it was off-putting, but I mean that was the point of the scene. It wasn't supposed to be something you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It was supposed to be really awkward, but it was one of the more awkward moments in television I've seen.
Yep. And Lysa Arryn sees it all. She's not happy. And she's threatening to throw Sansa out the moon door. And Peter comes in and saves her. I mean, were you expecting Lysa to meet her death in that scene?
I wasn't feeling it until they got into the moon room. When they got into the moon room and they got to the chamber and they got to the door, and she's holding Sansa there. I didn't know if Peter was going to walk in on that or not. I figured Lysa would eventually gather her bearings and not do it. But when Peter walked in, I'm like, oh crap! Like there's a distinct I'm like, she's standing right in front of the hole on the ledge, and when he starts kind of talking to her and talking her down from it and stuff like that, I'm like, he's going to push her out the moon door. And then, lo and behold, he delivers a line, I've only ever loved one woman, and that was your sister. And just, bam. It was just like, I was like, yeah, that's how he rolls. But see, the reason why that stopped me for a moment thinking of what happened, because I thought, how would he be able to lay claim to the veil if he kills his wife, who actually has
blood? Remember, he married her.
Yes. And there's nobody else is witnessing it. I guess you could say that she stumbled and fell to her death.
See, that's one thing I'm surprised they didn't spend a little bit more time developing this part of the story. In the story, in the books, there is a singer that basically Lysa loves singers, and this Sweet Robin likes to have singers around too. So there's this really scumbag singer who's supposed to be here in the books, and he actually tries to rape Sansa. I'm surprised they didn't include that in the book or in the show. But this singer is basically a scumbag, and the singer is in the room when he witnesses this. But Peter, when he comes in, all right, picture the scene as it is. The singer is in there, and he's seeing it go down. Peter comes in, he shuts and locks the door, so no one else is in there but the four of them. And he basically, the scene plays out like it did, but that's how they kind of get out of it, is Peter pins it on the singer. He says that he walks in and saw that the singer and Lysa were, the singer was trying to come on to her, and there was a struggle, and the singer pushed her out the moon door. And so that's how they kind of get around that. I'm wondering how that's going to play out in the show now. And speaking of that, they are coming very close to catching up to current book events.
Oh, really? So those are characters that are getting dangerously close to the end of their line currently. Okay.
Yeah, and actually, if you want to know for sure, like that is the final scene in book 3. Actually, is Lysa getting pushed out the moon door.
Okay.
That's the end of book 3, and then there's some more stuff to happen in Sansa's plot. But man, I would take a guess that next season they're going to catch up and go beyond what's in the books, which is going to be very interesting.
Okay.
Let's see what else.
But yeah, I just wanted to briefly bring up that nice little meme that you sent me today, where I was bringing reference to the glass bird that Peter had brought to Sweet Robin, I mean, and Robin just threw it out the door, and so it said. You threw my gift out the moon door, so I threw your mom out, or something like that. I thought that was hilarious. It was absolutely beautiful.
The way they cut that together was funny.
And now I want somebody to take that like those memes of the guy that's superimposed over his family, and it said that it says like they they asked me to change the channel, so I changed their life or something like that, or something like that. And it's just like I want them to have Peter Baelish like said he threw my gift out the door, so I threw his mom out, or something like that, and just have it over Sweet Robin in the background. Like that would be great.
That would be excellent. Another thing I want to mention too, and I don't think enough attention was put on this. But Liza's hysterical in that scene, and she is yelling out this stuff. Basically, I lied for you, I killed for you, I did all these things for you. And Sansa's hearing all this, and I know it's the heat of the moment, her life was just in jeopardy, but she's heard this information.
Yeah. So,
I don't know, I just want to put that out there, is that she's heard some info now.
Yeah, she it's revealed by her aunt that her, she basically says Cat was killed because of her, right? I mean, doesn't she?
Yeah, people who came between them have died, is what she basically was saying.
Yes.
So I'm thinking she might think that over and figure stuff out. We'll see. But I mean, basically, some info was revealed to Sansa. I don't think they really paid too much attention to it, but maybe in the next episode or so, she'll be thinking about it or something.
Yeah. I mean, that was some information she wasn't privy to before, so you gotta imagine she was taking it in on some level.
Because you gotta think, like, at this point, we as viewers know what Baelish's depth is at this point. That he is basically the one who started the domino effect that started the War of the Five Kings, and it's what got the Starks drawn into the war. He's pretty much responsible for the deaths of thousands of people at this point.
Yeah, I mean he's overplayed his hand in certain circumstances. Like he never had any intention of Cat being killed. I'm sure he obviously had every intention of Ned being killed, but he obviously had no intention of Cat being killed. But that's how sometimes the dice rolls when you're playing the game, I assume.
Yeah, and so I'm curious to see her reaction when she kind of starts figuring out how involved he is.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add about them?
No, I'm glad you brought up the fact that Sansa was in there, because we kind of lose track of the fact that she has not heard any of this info before. I mean, she only knows that her mother and her brother have died, but she doesn't know all the political backings behind it.
Yep. So now we move on to we're both in agreement that Tyrion and Oberyn are the stars of this episode for us. But let's talk about Tyrion. I think the episode pretty much focuses on Tyrion because it shows each potential champion approach him and decline him until finally Oberyn comes in and says, "Hey, I'm your champion." But so Jaime has legitimate reasoning, is that he can't fight. He says, I can't defeat a stable boy with my left hand. If he goes in there, he's pretty much going to die, and both Lannisters will die. He makes that comment too. He's like, wouldn't it be hilarious to see the look on Father's face if like our whole lineage is done with one sword stroke?
Yeah, it was very much it was a joke, but it was very much a last ditch effort by Tyrion to win his brother over. To see if his brother would be like, oh yeah, let me. There's no way.
Let's get ourselves killed.
Yeah, it'd be such a great joke on Father. Just to get him. That final joke.
Yeah. So yeah, that was funny. And it makes sense. Obviously, Jaime wants to help his brother, but he's just not in fighting form at the moment.
No, I would actually. I mean, I know Jaime was a skilled fighter with two hands, but you'd still worry going up against a mountain. I mean, any person's gonna be worried going up against a mountain, So, but definitely with one hand and his weaker hand, that's It's a scary scary proposition for him to take on the Full Force Mountain.
I would say even when Jaime was at his prime, it would still be a toss-up who would win in that fight. The Mountain is such a huge guy, like, and it's just like Bronn says. You make one misstep and you're dead. He's so strong. When he lands a blow on you, he's gonna take off a limb. He's gonna cut through your chest or whatever.
It's insta-jib.
Yeah, you're instantly dead. It's one hit KO pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's what Bronn comes in. I think it's funny. Bronn comes in with his new knightly vestments, and he's wearing his cloak and his all that. And there was a remark made in season 2 where Tyrion's trying to get him to wear a gold cloak, and he's like, "Oh, why would I do that? That just slows me down. I can't fight with that." And then now he's wearing the cloak and he's wearing the knightly stuff. So it shows how much Bronn has changed. He's kind of grown comfortable.
Yes.
And he's gotten a lot of riches. I mean, Tyrion has paid him well. So, and like he says in that scene, gold's not an issue to him anymore. He's gotten enough gold where he just doesn't care about money. He cares more about the titles and the land now, pretty much.
Yeah, and Cersei's given him a nice offer of being able to wed off to a woman who is not direct in line for a castle, but her sister could certainly have a fatal accident at some point, and they become direct in line. That little subtle hint that things, he could change. His fortune could be changed pretty quickly and easily for someone like Bronn.
Yeah, that was a good scene there. I don't know, that was a really well done scene too. I gotta say. Jerome Flynn, who plays Bronn, I like that scene of, it's like an honest friendship between them. He's like, you know how we started. I'm a sellsword. You hired me because you didn't, because I'm a dirty bastard. I didn't give a fuck. And we've had good times, but I like you, but I don't like you more than I like living. So he's like, this is where we part ways, pretty much. And I just really like that. It's a real honest moment between them. And while Tyrion is a little upset that Bronn won't fight for him, he understands. He's understood from the beginning, that Bronn is only there for the rewards. He's not a real knight. He's not there sworn to die for Tyrion.
Right.
So Bronn's going to do what's best for Bronn, and that's why he doesn't decide to fight for Tyrion. So.
Yeah, it was a great moment, and there was a lot of, again, every scene that Peter Dinklage is in is just going to have fine acting in it, but especially this week when we get to go through the row of people that are closest to him.
Yep. And, finally, Oberyn Martell comes in. This is my favorite scene with him so far that we've got. It's just awesome.
It was this was I don't know if I'd said it last week or not, but I know I talked to you about it. I had said that I thought it was a distinct possibility that Oberyn could end up being Tyrion's champion, and because he had the most to gain from that sort of task. Obviously, being that the Mountain had raped and killed his sister. And I watched over the past week. I've watched that Tyrion court scene many times, and people brought up the fact that when Tyrion's having his big O diatribe against his father and the whole kingdom, Oberyn leans in as it's happening, and he's taking and it's almost as if he's realizing that it's being set up for me. The moment has finally come that I get to finally, I get something that works out to my benefit.
Yeah, so it's a setup that justifies him taking blood.
Yes.
Like, he can't just go and kill the Mountain in the streets with no cause. This gives him cause to fight the Mountain and try to take him down, kill him, and get revenge for his sister. And it's done legally, and he sees an opportunity, pretty much.
But before we get to that, we get a tender story, or not so tender for Tyrion, but we get a story of himself as an infant, and Oberyn says that we met long ago, and Tyrion says, I don't remember, and he goes, oh, you won it. It was my first time I ever went to King's Landing. It was shortly after you were born. And he talks about how there was these stories about how Tyrion was this demon spawn, with claws and a red eye and a head three times the size of his body and a tail and everything like that. And how him and his sister, all they wanted to do was see this demon baby, this monster baby. And Cersei kept telling him she would show him, and then finally she does. And lo and behold, it's just a normal baby. Sure, and like you said, sure, he's a little disproportionate, but at the end of the day, it was still a human baby. And it was beautiful because Tyrion this whole time is hearing these horrible things that people have told about him his whole life, and then he hears this one validating comment that he was still just a human. At the end of the day, he was just a normal baby. And it was beautiful. The tears welling up in Peter Dinklage's eyes. Just that how it was such a hurtful story until Oberyn flipped the script at the end and said that he was just completely normal. You know.
That's why it was so. That's why it's such a beautiful. And like I said, it's almost dialogue taken straight off the page, and that's why I love it. Is that this story is very. It does two things. It shows that. I don't know, Oberyn's way with words, the way he's telling the story is almost like, yeah, you're just a huge disappointment. And then Tyrion goes, well, you're more like my family than you want to admit. And then when he finally comes, like you said, when he flips it and he lays down the point of his story, it just shows that this is something to admire about the Dornish compared to the rest of Westeros, is that they value all life, it seems like.
Yeah.
Because they don't look down on bastards the same way Westeros does, and then like I said, Oberyn looks at baby Tyrion and he doesn't see a monster; he just sees a child. And I don't know, I think it's that. I don't know. It's just it's a good thing. I think that the Dornish value life that way.
Yeah, it's a good thing for Tyrion.
No, it's definitely a good thing for Tyrion. But yeah, in Dinklage's acting, he doesn't say much during that. That's mostly Pedro Pascal's job. He does an excellent job with the dialogue, and Tyrion's reaction shots. He doesn't. In most of these scenes, he's not even giving dialogue, but he's killing the scene with his emotions. And it's just beautiful. Just the way he, like you said, he looks like he's just lost all hope. He's tearing up. And then when he says, "I will be your champion," he just starts to like get this gasp of hope, like he can't believe that just happened, pretty much.
And he gets up like to go grab his torch as if to leave. Like this was all he came down to do, was to tell that story of him as an infant. And then he turns around, he's like, "I will be your champion." It's just like, and you said that gasp that Peter Dinklage lets out of just relief of like, oh my God, somebody's going to stand up for me, you know? And it was just like, oh, the chills go down my neck, and I felt it coming, but when it happened, you're just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like I love this Oberyn Martell. He's only been around for this season, but he's freaking amazing. Like this character is awesome.
I'm so glad they've done this guy. They've done him so well. Pedro Pascal he's excellent casting, and I don't know, I'm so happy with that scene. But yeah, I mean, great episode, and obviously it leaves us with some hype for the big upcoming fight. Unfortunately, we have to wait 2 weeks for it. But they're trying to avoid the slump in ratings that comes with the holiday weekend.
And that's understandable. It's Memorial Day weekend. Not everybody will necessarily have access to HBO. I get that, but
yeah, people will be out barbecuing or something.
Yeah.
Enjoying the weekend, but whatever. That actually works out for me because we'll be covering Comic Palooza next weekend, so it'll erase the angst of me trying to leave the con early to go home and see Game of Thrones.
Sure, and gives us a little break for a week before we have to tackle the big events that are obviously going to surely follow in the last 3 episodes of the season. I can't believe we're already down to 3. It's been going by way too fast, but hey, that's how Game of Thrones goes.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, I look forward to seeing the fight. I look forward to people's reactions, especially like when it's revealed to Tywin or Cersei that the Red Viper is there to stand up for Tyrion. It's going to be hilarious to see their reactions.
Yeah, especially when Cersei and Tywin felt that they had sort of played him onto their side. They obviously they did everything they could, all the right moves to keep the Dornish on their side, and only to have him turn around at the end and fight for the family member that they don't want anymore.
That is a good point. Is that he got everything he wanted from them. Like he's played all of them pretty much because he got a council seat. He got
yes.
He's getting like gifts. He's got I don't know. He's just gotten all this stuff.
He was a judge. There's only 3 guys who sat as judges. I mean, that Tyrell, a Lannister, and then Oberyn Martell. It's like, yeah, he's going to turn around and fight against their chosen champion. It's pretty impressive. I mean, obviously my prediction is that he wins. It will still be because just we haven't seen much of the Mountain, and it would be pretty devastating to have Oberyn die. But I think it's going to be a fight. I think this will be like the We haven't really had a great one-on-one fight with this sort of build-up so far. We haven't had like a duel that we've.
Probably the biggest one was, I mean, not with this much build-up, but I like the fight between Beric Dondarrion and the Hound.
Okay. Yes.
When Beric fights with the flaming sword, that was a good one-on-one, I think.
That was.
But I think this will be the biggest one-on-one we have seen so far, and it's going to be glorious.
Yeah. Yeah, with all the hype of the Mountain in all the past seasons, even though we haven't seen him, but he's been hyped up quite a bit, you're expecting a pretty big and dangerous fight, especially when the disparity in size, obviously. I mean, the Mountain's going to be towering, and that's going to be cool in that moment when we see the Mountain standing next to Oberyn, because we're going to truly see just how large he is, and it's going to be it'll be a fun fight.
Oh yeah, yeah. I would definitely advise watching for spoilers. Because we got 2 weeks between us, so yeah, just be careful. But yeah, I think that episode's gonna get hype. You know, pretty much just get hype. But yeah, I mean, was there anything else you wanted to add before we close up?
No, other than I just want to start beating that Emmy drum for Peter Dinklage, just because I know this is the last year for Aaron Paul in Breaking Bad. He has a couple of them already. I loved Aaron Paul. I thought he did great in Breaking Bad, but gosh, Peter Dinklage is just totally owning the season. I mean, just you don't even have to say anything, and he completely owns an episode. So I think he deserves another Emmy. He needs some more rewards for this character.
Yeah, I do. I agree. I think he deserves it. And yeah, I'll go ahead and go ahead and run our plugs real quick. If you guys are new here, go ahead and check out. You can check us out at altness.com. The rest of our episode reviews are up there. We also have discussions about many other topics, video games, movies, etc. If you want to follow us on Twitter, I am at McBalls, McBalz, 2 L's and a Z. Jordan is at JJ Wade.
JJWADE.
There you go. Yeah, and yeah, all that info, you can find that in the video description also. And yeah, go ahead and give us a follow if you care, and check us out at altness.com. And yep, we have a 2-week break ahead of us, so we'll resume this. I guess that would be the end of May. Yeah, like May 30th, something maybe. I don't know.
We'll be hitting June. I think we'll be hitting June at that point.
May. Yeah, June. The episode will air on June 1st, and we will be recording June 2nd.
All right, so we'll see you next month.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next month. Thanks for tuning in, and yeah, enjoy your Memorial Day weekend, and we'll see you after the break. Have a good one.